When accomplished people step into unfamiliar terrain, they almost always do the same thing. They double down on what got them there. But in new territory, that strategy can really work against you. Robert got the call on a Friday afternoon after trying to find a job in his industry for 18 months. He faced the hard truth that for someone at his level, there were no viable openings. So he pivoted to pharma, doing sales, a far cry from vice president of marketing at a film studio. He would start the new gig in 2 weeks. He was elated to have a gig, but he was dejected because his degree, his experience, and his wins didn't really translate to the new role. He would be starting in a sales training program with a bunch of 20-year-olds. He confessed he was embarrassed and anxious to be a newbie. If you're mid-career or later and you're stepping into something unfamiliar, you may feel horribly destabilized because knowing your stuff has always been your anchor, and now it might not be enough. Here's what I want you to know. Your credentials are not meaningless, but they're not the whole story either. When you're in new territory, something else takes precedent. And most high achievers are the last to figure out what that something else actually is. But I'm going to tell you what that thing is in this week's episode and how to make it happen. Hi, I'm LaVerne McKinnon. This is Moonshot Mentor. If something at work changed that you really, really didn't want to change, I am so sorry. And I'm really, really glad that you found your way here, because this is where we talk about what happened and how to figure out what's next without feeling like you're just throwing a bunch of spaghetti against the wall, hoping that something sticks. If you want more of these conversations, subscribe. And if something here resonates, please reach out. I'd really love to hear your story. Okay, let's jump in. When accomplished people step into unfamiliar terrain, they almost always do the same thing. I see it over and over. They double down on what got them there. More preparation, more credentials, more proof that they belong. It's the only playbook they know, and it worked for a long time. But in new territory, that strategy can really work against you. The pressure to perform expertise you don't have yet, when you're someone who typically hits it out of the ballpark, whoo, boy, that can be debilitating. Instead of projecting competence, you end up projecting effort, which reads very differently in a room and really impacts your credibility in a not awesome way. So this happens because your identity has been wrapped up in being the expert for a long time. It's what happens when you're good at something and you build a career around it. And you're rightly proud of those achievements, so I don't want to take those away from you at all. But when you're no longer the expert, your nervous system reads that as danger. And what happens is you over-prepare, you over-explain, you puff up with overcompensation. Or you go in the other direction and you withdraw, waiting until you feel ready enough to show up. You observe the situation, you take notes, you plot, and you plan. None of these responses are what the new territory actually needs from you. The expert identity that protected you in your old lane, it becomes a kind of armor that keeps you from learning what you need to learn in order to succeed again. Let's go back to Robert for a moment to really bring this alive. So when Robert completed his sales training, he told me that he almost blew it. He was irritated with the pace of the program. He already knew what he was being told, and he was being trained by someone who was 15 years younger than him, and that was a real ego hit. After that second day of training, he went home and he vented over dinner, and vented is probably a polite way to describe the level of emotion that he brought to that meal. Now, Robert's a terrific dad, and his parental wisdom came back to him at that right moment. His 16-year-old said to him in mid-vent, "Dad, I thought you said attitude is the best strategy." Those words stopped Robert in his tracks. He knew he was impatient and that he didn't suffer fools. But he also knew that attitude was the difference between a door opening or closing, a brief stint or a place to grow, and his own mental well-being. Robert thanked his son and told his family to throw marshmallows at him if he started complaining again, and he course-corrected his attitude. So he started the third day of training with a beginner's mind, and he brought cookies. Let me make this concrete, because show up with a good attitude is advice that sounds nice and means absolutely nothing without specifics. So this is what it looks like. Ask more questions than you answer. A friend of mine struggled with this early in her career. She had so many thoughts that she wanted to share in every meeting that she started to keep a notebook just to get them out of her head. And what she discovered was that writing things down calmed her nervous system, and so that it freed her to actually listen and then formulate questions. So she stopped needing to show that she knew everything and started learning more by asking. And ultimately, the relationships that she built that way turned out to be some of the most valuable of her career. Next, name what you don't know before someone else does. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, but it really builds a lot of respect, especially if you're coming into a situation where you have a depth of experience, but you're sort of starting over. So early in my career at CBS, I was promoted to a role that was, on the surface, a significant stretch, but of course I felt confident that I could do it. Long story short, I was on my first set visit. It was to a show, I'm going to just name it Early Edition, and it had already been on the air for a couple of years, and it was a well-run production and doing well. And so when I went to visit the production team, I just admitted, you guys know more than I do, so I am here to learn and just to be a fan. I am a really big fan of Kyle Chandler, if you know the show. The room, wow, the energy shifted immediately, and I could tell that the people that I'd been meeting with, who had been braced for the network executive to come in and assert authority, instead, they wound up opening doors that they typically kept the suits out of. So I was going to, production meetings, like wardrobe fittings, all of that. So naming a gap, it can create goodwill. Next one. Let your enthusiasm be visible and be specific. This one is genuinely underrated because enthusiasm that is vague, it sort of feels performative. Enthusiasm that's specific, that is real in relationship building. So show up on time or early. When something impresses you, say exactly what impressed you. Look people in the eye. Say hello. Say thank you in a way that names a thing that you are grateful for. None of this is complicated, but it lands differently, and it really has a positive impact. And then the final one, this is an interesting one because it's about protecting your energy from things that spiral you. I'm going to go back to Robert again. So Robert deleted social media during a stretch when he noticed that he was using it when he felt bored. And that was an important strategic decision because boredom for Robert meant that he believed he knew everything he needed to know. Your attitude is an asset. Anything that drains it, it's worth taking seriously so you can show up as the best version of yourself with the best attitude. Focusing on attitude is not an argument against skill. You need a baseline. You need to be able to do the work at a competent level before any of this matters. But past that threshold, what differentiates you in new territory is relational and it's energetic, not just technical. So the people who are deciding whether to bring you along, to collaborate with you, to keep you there or invest in you, they're asking a very human question. Do I want this person in the room when things get hard? That question is answered by how it feels to be around you. Bottom line, Robert finished his sales training. He has continued to do well in his new role, just methodically, one foot in front of the other. Turns out he actually didn't know everything, but with that son's reminder, he showed up curious. He asked questions and he let people teach him. And that attitude shift made the training a pleasant experience for him. Your expertise is real. Your accomplishments are real. But in new territory, the thing that earns trust the best is how you show up with grace and interest. Ask more than you answer. Name the gap before someone else does. Let your enthusiasm be specific and visible. Those are not soft skills. They are strategy. If you would like a little more support in trying to figure out how to move forward with this stuff while things are changing in your career, come join Solid Ground. It's my membership community where we take this work deeper with monthly lessons, journal prompts, guided meditations. You can find more information and join at moonshotmentor.substack.com. Thank you to Lauren Deacon for all things Moonshot Mentor and for Kara Langham for editing and for handling social. And thank you for being here, truly. Give yourself permission to be where you are, and I will see you next week.